So let's take a note right here. Step one of this 10-step process that we just talked about. What does your service and product do? Sounds trivial, but right away, think about your niche, whatever business you have, whatever service you're selling. Really think about that and evaluate it. What does your service or product actually do? Try to dig past the obvious and try to come up with a real answer like Matthew just did there.
Welcome to the Vigilante Leverage Show. I'm Matthew Bergenson.
And I'm Lukas Ung. And what are we talking about today?
We're finding target audiences for businesses because that's something that I keep running into over and over again this week.
I love and hate this question. I love this question because it is highly relevant, but I hate this question because I personally think that it is solving things from the wrong perspective. But I think for the sake of that question that we keep on coming across, maybe we should talk about that, and then we can go backwards in the way that we'd actually think about it.
Yeah, and to clarify, what is the exact phrasing of that question in your mind?
So the initial question is how to find a target audience for your business. I think the better question is there a problem that you actually even need to solve in the first place? And if so, what is the business, service, or product that can solve that problem? I think that is a more interesting question. But I think a lot of people already have their businesses established. They already have the services they want to provide. So at the very least we can do is help them out and explain how we'd go about this.
Yep. That makes sense. So if you already have a product or a service, you've built it out, you're not willing to change it, or maybe you're willing to pivot it a little bit, but that's it. What words of advice do you have for those sorts of people?
I think you need to have a full understanding of what is it that your product does, what problem does it solve, who has that problem, how are they currently solving that problem, what happens if they don't solve that problem, and then what does solving that problem actually look like with all of the existing solutions, and then figuring out and mapping out, okay, how does my product solve this problem or service solve this problem differently or better? What does it look like in all those processes? What happens if they don't use this product or service to solve their problem? And then figuring out, okay, based on who I can help and who has this problem, who are the perfect customers, the ideal customer profile for me to approach? Maybe we should break that down piece by piece.
Yeah, because that sounded like a 10-part answer. So let's boil it down a little bit. Yeah. I'm like, okay, I'm paying attention. I'm lost. I can't inventory 10 things in my brain at once. I don't know about you. So starting out, I think step one is sort of defining what it is that you do. And a lot of people don't necessarily have clarity on that. We struggle with this too, because we touch a lot of markets. When people ask me what we do, I'm like, phew, what's the right answer to give to you? Do I want to be working with you? Because if no, I might obfuscate it a bit. So if you've gotten a very unclear answer from me in the past, it may have been intentional, but probably not. You're probably one of the good ones. Just, don't feel hurt. But step one is definitely defining what it is that you do.
Yeah, that's kind of hard. Maybe we should choose something that people would understand that's pretty commoditized, just as an example. We could think of like real estate agents, plumbers, financial planners. What do you think?
Yeah, let's start out. Real estate agents is an interesting one. I've got personal experience in this space.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what does a real estate agent, what is their service? What do they do? It's a good starting point.
Well, are we going to get spicy on episode 1?
Let's get spicy. Let's be real.
Because at the end of the day, most real estate agents are actually in the business of acquiring clients and facilitating fast transactions, not necessarily the best quality ones. If you just look at where the incentives lie in the real estate market.
So I think right off the bat, we're in a really interesting spot, because I think a lot of it, real estate agents would say, I get you the most money for your house. But right off the bat, we're acknowledging that that's actually not what the service is. You just said that it's actually about facilitating the quick transaction of real estate.
Right. I mean, when you look at the incremental improvement of how a real estate commission is paid out, right? You're looking at a 3%. It depends on your market, but in a lot of markets, 2.5%, 3% of the
Yeah.
total deal. And so, the difference between you listing and selling a house at $500,000 and really, really grinding for an extra, 15K, and risking losing a deal and all the rest of it going through, that 15K goes a long way for the actual seller of the home. But in your own pocket, it really represents $450.
So let's take a note right here. Step one of this 10-step process that we just talked about. What does your service and product do? Sounds trivial, but right away, think about your niche, whatever business you have, whatever service you're selling. Really think about that and evaluate it. What does your service or product actually do? Try to dig past the obvious and try to come up with a real answer like Matthew just did there, because that's where you're actually going to be.
And the whole reason that we're getting into that is we're looking at the incentives and the alignment of those incentives. So there's going to be, in any industry, there's going to be sort of streamlined ways to conduct your business. And when you go against the grain in those, you're going to end up really polarizing a few people for sure. But polarizing can go both ways. I mean, we've had some of our greatest successes on things that 90% of the market said, oh no, we definitely don't want that. It's awful. And then for the 10%, it was just the perfect fit.
Agreed completely. Yeah. The second step, now that we know what the service and product does, what problem does that actually solve? I want to go off of what you said. So the service, what a real estate agent does, what is their service? Their service is facilitating quick transactions of buyers and sellers in the real estate market, which means you're not basically courting a bunch of sellers and saying, I'm going to get you the highest price. You're courting a bunch of sellers and saying, I'm going to match you up with the right buyer. It's going to be at a fair market price. I'm not going to get you the best deal, even though they say they will. They're going to say, I'm going to get you a fantastic deal. But they're just going to get you a deal, and they're going to make sure that it is done with a reputed person and it's done pretty quickly. So the problem that seems to solve doesn't seem to be necessarily like a one-to-one problem of I'm going to get you the best deal possible for your house, either as a buyer or a seller. It seems to be much more like macroeconomic. It's I'm going to, like, without us, the housing market's going to move slow because buyers and sellers are not going to be able to find each other very easily. So I am going to facilitate these transactions much more quickly and efficiently than would otherwise happen. I think that's my perspective on what problem that solves. What do you think?
Yeah. I mean, ultimately, it's an audience problem and a transfer of confidence problem. A lot of people have never sold a house before, and it's daunting. It's a big transaction. There's a lot going on. County paperwork is very obfuscated and honestly stuck in the 1940s in a lot of places. So it's solving the problem of people being nervous about doing such a large transaction by themselves, and solving the problem of, I don't know how to get this product, the house, in front of the right market, the right people with money, sort of vetted buyers, because you can also have a lot of tire kickers if you do, for sale by owner. You're going to end up with a lot of people just sort of going by who are in whatever stages of the financial process and aren't necessarily ready to go, but they can hold up a deal if you don't know what you're doing.
I think that also touches on another aspect, which is if you really think about it, everybody in their lifetime becomes a 6-figure salesperson, which is buying and selling houses, maybe even a 7-figure salesperson. But not everybody has the expertise to be a 6 or 7-figure person salesperson. I think that on the lines of what you talked about, the lack of knowledge on negotiations, as well as in the real estate market itself, and as well as the detaching of emotions, it helps facilitate that transaction a little bit more quickly and efficiently. So yeah, just to kind of riff on what you said.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Step 3, what was it? It was who has the problem, right?
Yeah. Who has the problem? I guess there's 2 people who have a problem, right?
Yeah, in a transaction like that, yeah, you've got to have 2 people with complementary problems. Yeah. I gotta sell this house. I gotta buy this house. Yeah.
Yeah, we gotta bring them together. They're not going to
Yeah.
find each other, or maybe they'll find each other, but again, they don't know what to do. They don't know how to negotiate a six-figure deal. They don't know how to do the paperwork. A lot of stuff. So now that we know what is the service, what problem does it solve, who has the problem, and how is that problem being solved?
Yeah.
I
And this is
think
where you really start to see the opportunities crop up, right? Like going back to number one, identifying what forces are present in the market, what the incentives are, but then figuring out like, okay, so why is everybody doing it the way that they are? And often there's a really good reason for that. Um, Macroeconomic forces, just traditional incentives aligning in that direction. But that's also where you see the most opportunity by being able to differentiate yourself.
agreed completely. And in our real estate example, we can think of disruptions that have happened as the way that business has always been done. But as an exercise to the listeners, think about it for a second. But right now, we can think of real estate agents off the top of our head. We can think of direct transactions. And then you probably want to trace the chain down under each of those paths. If you're selling with a real estate agent or buying with a real estate agent, what does that look like? If you're trying to do it without a real estate agent, what does that look like? If there's some software platform that's enabling buyers and sellers to connect, what does that look like? This fork in the road has a couple of different prongs on it, it looks like, and tracing each path down will kind of lead to different results and different answers that if you're a real estate agent, you should really be thinking about.
Yeah. Ask different questions, get different results.
Yeah. And so what happens if this problem's not, or actually first, your take on it, any other take you have?
On the how is it currently being solved?
Yeah. Anything we missed there?
I'm thinking through the multiple facets of facilitating a transaction like that. You have ways that you can add value on the relationship side, just being more relational, being more comforting, being more knowledgeable about construction itself, being you can win on knowledge, you can win on comfort that you give people, you can win on confidence that you give people, you can win on better audiences that you can leverage, you can win on actually getting people the best price for their house, you can win on speed of transaction, you can win on preferred relationships with vendors such as contractors, home inspectors. Well, that one's money, but especially when it comes to doing the really high value but low cost home improvements in preparation for sale, having those preferred relationships with carpet installers, tile installers, things like that. There's a lot of different ways that you can figure out what your unique solution to the problem is going to be, and it depends on where your strengths are, what you want to double down on, while making sure that you don't compromise too hard in any of the rest.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And what happens if they don't solve the problem? Like, what happens if this problem doesn't get solved? There's no real estate agent. There's no facilitator. What happens?
I mean, worst case scenario. Actually, second worst case scenario is they don't sell their house. Worst case scenario is that something really bad happens with the deal. Either they buy the wrong property or they have some issue with the sale of their property.
Yeah.
So, and those mistakes are expensive. Those mistakes can be really, really expensive.
It's kind of nice about being in an entrenched industry in that way because, well, if they don't use someone in the industry, then they're kind of out of luck. So they're kind of forced into a situation where they need to choose. So good news, real estate agents. People need to use a real estate agent in general. Very few people don't do it. It's just a matter of, are they going to choose you? So that's kind of cool in a way, but it also leads to other problems. So I think that I don't think that it makes sense to walk through each of the different existing solutions to figure out, like, with a real estate agent, with tech, you can let someone else walk through that. Let's just pretend they're using a real estate agent. And so if you're using a real estate agent as opposed to some of the other solutions, why is that going to be a better solution? Like, why is your service as a real estate agent going to be better? I think Matthew touched on some of those. You can choose your own differentiators, but just walking through that process is important. Anything else to add?
No, I think you've kept it up.
Yeah, which also ties into unique value proposition and unique selling proposition, which is like when someone is going to be talking about why they should be the agent as opposed to Joe down the street. Here's why. Here's my unique value proposition, my unique selling proposition. And I think that is it okay if we just give people a little peek about some negotiation stuff here, Matthew?
Yeah, why not?
Just on a little tangent, I think that understanding what type of service or product you have is important. When you're talking about real estate, you're talking about something that's kind of commoditized, at least the service of selling it is. And there's a winner and a loser. There's a pie and it's very fixed. If you have a bigger pie, then someone else is going to have a smaller slice of that pie. There's not really much room for you guys to expand the pie together, which means that every dollar the buyer makes is every dollar that the seller doesn't make. And which means that as you, the real estate agent, are aligned with whichever side you're representing, which means that in this sort of negotiation, when you're talking about being someone's agent and when you're talking about either talking up the price of a house or talking down the price of a house, the goal is to talk as much as possible and hammer in all of your unique value propositions as hard as possible. Be like, I know about inspections. I'm technology savvy. I've been in this neighborhood for 20 years. I know all of the real estate agents. Joe down the street's a schmuck. I hate him. The whole neighborhood hates him. The HOA hates him. Everything you can possibly do to take up airtime and to talk as much as possible to hammer in your own value. Very important when you're talking about a commoditized market like this. So just a little side note on value propositions when you're talking about something where it's just a one-sided negotiation. If you get more, they get less.
Yeah, although going back to incentives and alignment, the buyer's agent is still incentivized to overpay for the house as much as possible because it's not their money, but they're still getting a fixed percentage of the sale.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah. See, the incentives are just so screwed up, right?
Well,
but
someone out there,
that's the way the industry is constructed. Yeah.
And then, so based on the problems you solve, right, you're going to solve a unique set of problems. Like if you're Matthew, you're going to walk into that place and you're going to know everything about everything about the house pretty much at all. Like how it was constructed, what's going to be good, the flooring. I know you're not an electrician, but you even know a little bit about like the electrical stuff, the plumbing.
Just the dangerous amount, yeah.
And so like based on the value propositions that you are bringing with your specific take on the service, who cares about those things? Like literally, who is the one that will care about it?
On those specific issues?
Yeah. Identifying those people, I think, is important. Then you can break down your ideal customer profile. For example, if I was to make something up, I would imagine that young single tech employees might be a very good ideal customer profile for that because some of them may have spent a lot of time understanding about housing and construction, but chances are most of them haven't, and they just have watched some YouTube videos, read some stuff, and want to make sure the real estate agent will do them well. If that's the case, maybe you want to focus on young single tech people.
Oh, well, and that was the case for me, actually, funnily enough. It's funny that you mentioned YouTube because, it was sort of like my ability to carry on where YouTube left off. It did a great job of winding them up with a whole lot of questions and not a lot of real world knowledge in terms of how to find the solutions and the answers for it. So, it's just funny how that ended up being a bridge. Yeah, but you've got to find, who's going to value those things. And, for me, having a lot of construction knowledge from a previous life, I was able to add a lot of value to people that had a very fixed budget, were planning on being in the house for a long time, wanted to make sure that the bones were good, but knew that at some point in the next several years, they were probably going to be looking at remodeling and wanted something that they could, riff off of and modify down the road.
What other potential profiles could fit out of this? Because I want people to understand. I think that everyone should understand that a different unique value proposition that you are bringing to the table is going to result in a different ideal customer profile, even if you do the same thing.
Yep. I mean, my specialty was really finding undervalued homes and helping people see how they could, with a little bit of modification, turn into something really great. Whereas other people, this the phrase that always drove me bananas was the term forever home, because I thought it was just the stupidest thing. And this is where I just didn't align with some people. Some people are really looking for their forever home, whereas me, I'm always like, okay, so how can you invest in this, modify it, create more value, move on to the next thing? I was helping people buy their first or second investment property, whereas other people were really out there trying to find the forever homes for people, and like what already matches, what is something that you want to be in for a long, long time, maybe even grow old in. And that's just a different market, different set of values and expectations and alignments.
So, there's a difference right there between investors, investment properties, people who are have the capital to do that right away, people who maybe don't have all the capital, but have the ability to purchase a home and then renovate it and move on to the next in investment wise, and people who are just looking for a home and just the one and done. Lots of different types of people in here. And then we have subgroups of people within all of those. There's a lot of different ways to slice and dice that ideal customer profile. And then probably my favorite one, where do these people hang out? Where can you go fishing to find these customers? I think this is what a lot of people want to know.
Yeah. Yeah. At the end of the day, it's all about like, how do I actually acquire a client? We're always looking for higher leverage ways of doing that. That's, I guess, why we are the Vigilante Leverage Show. So I hate doing one-offs. Like one-offs are so inconvenient. It's the amount of leverage that you get off of the right person wrapping their arm around you and saying, "Hey, this is my guy." He gets things done in this arena. It's just so much more valuable than having to build the trust and the relationships one by one. I just really vastly prefer to do it at scale. So finding the people that already own the audience that you have, and I was actually just listening to Jay Abraham earlier today. He's like, hey, you got to find the people who have the audience that are either needing your problem right now or are just starting to come up on the solution that you provide, or needing the solution that you provide. And it's about hitting things right at that inflection point.
I kind of like that. I mean, like, just sum up where we're at so far, just leading up to this, and then let's spend a lot of time talking about the, those different places to get customers. So we've really identified specifically what does your service or product do, and we found out maybe it's something a little bit different than you might have thought. What does that problem actually solve? Name every single one of them. Now, who has that problem? List as many people as you can that has that problem. In what ways is that problem being solved already without you? List as many as you can. What happens if they don't solve that problem? Map out all of the outcomes. Walk through the stages of what does it look like when that problem is being solved under each different scenario. Then figure out how is your service or product better than any of those options. Make sure that it's very clear and specific. We gave you lots of examples for that. Identify your specific unique value proposition. What are you bringing to the table? Now you have to also identify who specifically is going to resonate with that unique value proposition, who has your problems. And then now we need to figure out where do those people hang out. And Matthew, as you said, we're Vigilante Leverage. We are always trying to figure out how do we build long-lasting relationships that instead of selling one deal, you make one relationship happen and you sell 100 deals.
Yep. If you really want to get tactical, I mean, I'm not in the game anymore. I don't care about giving away my secrets. It was people who were in HR and recruiting for big tech companies. We're always seeing, they were one of the first points of contact for anybody new to town coming in, often with the cash or at least the tech paycheck to be buying a property. So I just got in good with tech recruiters, and bam, that was all I needed to do. They had a constant funnel for me. So investing in those relationships was what, allowed me to get clients at scale. So you'd be amazed at how far an open bar will go. You invite 10 recruiters to an open bar. It'll run you $1,000 and you got business for the rest of the year. So finding those, the right relationships to invest in that are going to give you clients at scale is just choice.
Absolutely. Yeah. No brainer. Another one that I would think about, I was never in this game, but if I was thinking about someone that could be high leverage for me in this sort of scenario, I think of a financial planner or like a personal CPA. because financial planners, what they do all day long is answer questions about financial situations, and they know who's interested in buying. If they hear a customer of theirs is interested in buying a house, they're going to say, I want to add value to your situation. Go talk to this person. They'll take care of you. Like a CPA, same thing. They're going to have at least some semblance of what's going on in their customers' lives. At least some of them will. And a lot of their customers talk to them all the time. They would definitely send people your way. Even mortgage lenders. Some of those folks, people come into the bank saying, I'm thinking about buying a house. They say, all right, let's get you pre-approved. Where are you looking to buy? They say, I don't know, just getting pre-approved to kind of get the process started. They say, all right, go talk to Matthew, my real estate agent guy. He'll get you set up well. There's so many different places that you can go to obtain leveraged opportunities.
Yeah, and if you're doing more of a B2B thing, this is something that I really don't see utilized enough, and it's so powerful. A lot of the time when people are asking for referrals, they'll ask people in business for referrals to their peers, which A, kind of awkward, and B, is like, hey, you're helping me out. Why would I necessarily want to help my competitors out? But instead of asking them for referrals to their peers, find out who else is selling a lot of things to them. Like if you're a vendor and you're, selling, I don't know, let's say that you're selling them their janitorial supplies and you're trying to sell to a specific market. And then it turns out somebody else is doing all their IT work and they have a lot of reach in that market. Ask for ways that you can get to know the other vendors that serve that market, and then figure out how you can assist those vendors in providing them with a better quality of service. Now, the janitorial supplies and the IT, that's not necessarily complimentary, but finding out who are the vendors and then going to the vendors and say, hey, I really love working with Lukas. I want to help Lukas better. And I think that if we work together, we can find a way to be a little bit more seamless, not run into each other in our goal of helping Lukas. And those vendors will, really start to like how you make their life easier. And then anytime they have a new contract, if they think that you can provide the adjacent service and they've gotten used to working with you, they've gotten used to how you do business, how you help them with their clients, they will bring you along for the ride over and over and over again.
Yeah, I've seen it play out a million times, and we're always going to see it play out. People want to help people. That brings something fun to the party, and that make the party better.
Got to bring something fun to the party.
Always got to bring something to the party. Speaking of which, Matthew, when we always talk about this from the perspective of what can you bring to the party, I think a lot of people that I've spoken with are always just like, what can I take from the party? I want something from this party. Can I get 2 party favor bags? Maybe I can grab a puppy if no one's looking. But I think that no one likes that person, right? You're going to get a puppy, you're going to get 2 gift bags, but then you're not going to get invited to the next party. But if you bring the badass chocolate cake that everybody loves, you're going to get invited to every party.
Yep. People are going to appreciate you bringing the badass chocolate cake. They can offer you slices of their own cakes.
I learned that one from you, but just want to make sure I'm giving credit where it's due here.
All right. Well, apparently you learned something from me. Usually it's the other way around.
I think it's pretty 50-50. Let's be real at this point. Gosh, do we even have enough time to talk about the opposite direction? I don't know if we have enough time for that, do we?
We might have to do that another day.
Yeah, I suppose so. Well, at least that gives us next week's topic to go over pretty easily then.
All right. And just as a little teaser for the audience, what is the opposite direction?
The opposite direction is, instead of taking your service and product and trying to match it to somebody, trying to figure out what actually matters to you, what problems and what people matter to you, and then building a service and product to help those people and making money from it.
All right. Well, if that sounds interesting to you, we've got another episode next week coming out about just that topic.
Perfect. All right, then. Well, until next time, I'm Lukas Ung.
I'm Matthew Bergenson. Thanks for tuning in to Vigilante Leverage.